What's happening, guys? Little bit of a different one today. We're actually going to be meeting up with my longest standing client today of 4.5 years, Kristian Ingram. He's from Scotland and he's spending a bit of time out in Bali right now. So he's on his way right now. He's had a little bit of a nightmare of a morning. I feel his pain. I've been there before. He's actually had his Instagram account and his Facebook account and his Facebook ads account hacked. So not ideal. Obviously this is what happens when you run a business and you live this lifestyle. A lot of things pop up. But Kieran's actually now a client inside RTL, which is my higher tier program. There he is right there. He is. He's had a bit of a disaster in the morning, but he's jamming and he's here and he's doing the thing. So we're going to be essentially ripping apart his lifestyle, body, mindset, business, and we're going to be having a bit of a one-to-one back in the villa after we run, get some food and then head back to there. So we're going to bring you along so that you can actually see exactly how I go about things and how you can apply this into your lifestyle, your business, your brand, and everything that we're going to go over today. So before we get into it, make sure you've hit subscribe to the channel. Anyway, see you later. Bye. So I know I mentioned already that Kieran just had his account hacked, and it kind of brought me back to a few things I've had happen to me this year. My YouTube was shut down with no explanation. I thought I was going to have to pay someone to try and get it back, thousands of pounds. I had stuff going in my bank earlier on this year where it got locked and I had to fly to Dubai. When you're living a life that's like, you're doing things that are out of the ordinary, you've got a business, you're in charge of people, you're responsible for people, there's going to be a lot of moving parts. There's going to come a point where shit hits the fan and things do not go to plan, and it genuinely is what separates true high performers from people that are low performers. Because Kieran had an option this morning. Kieran could have rolled over on his bed, felt sorry for himself for that happening, played victim to what happened, which is unfair, and he was a victim, he was, but he didn't. And that's the bit that like so many folk do not realise when it comes to achieving success and whatever it is you're doing. It's about your willingness to just consistently show up, consistently do the thing regardless of how you feel. That is success. That is us finished, guys, here at Open House, our favourite spot. We actually eat here like pretty much every day. So does David behind the camera. So we're going to get some food and then we're going to head back to the villa. We're back again, but Gary the lizard has decided to join us this time. So he actually swims in the pool and he's got bigger since the last YouTube that we've done. So it's been like 2 weeks, man. So I'm waiting on him to turn into like a full-blown like alligator. Check him out over there. You put him on diet? Right, yeah. He's on the bulk, man. We're taking him for the blueprint today. So he's going to optimise body, mindset, business, lifestyle, and he's going to be joining us for it. So we're going to be running through this with Kieran here. So as I mentioned, Kieran is a long-term client of mine. He's actually the longest standing client at this point of nearly 4.5 years. He's buzzing with that. And he's recently came up into RTL. So Ready to Lead is my programme for, naturally the progression happened where I've been doing this for nearly 9 years. And people started asking me for help. People started saying, when are you going to do this? When are you going to help me with that? And the biggest thing for me and my own experience in investing so much in help, mentoring, coaching, is that you just buy into that person, and that's half the battle, guys. So what we're doing is just ripping apart everything, and we're just going to create a new blueprint. The thing that people don't understand, guys, when it comes to going up a gear and really changing and going to the next level, is people want it to be a silver bullet. They want it to be an antidote, they want it to be a strategy, they want it to be something that's way more complicated than it actually is. What it is a new identity, a new level of thinking, a new level of consciousness, and even higher standards than what you're doing already. So we're going to break it down into these 3 sections. Body and health, we're going to look at, right, where are we at right now? What are the gaps? What do we need to close so that you can take this into your own blueprint and strategy as well? We're then going to look at coaching and culture, which is obviously relevant to anyone that's coaching. So this doesn't even have to be fitness. This can be mindset, lifestyle, whatever you're doing. Even if you're creating a framework and you have a team or you're trying to essentially help and coach folk through an improvement system, you can apply this stuff to there, because I've been doing this for a long period of time and we get very good results with clients. So this is proven. So we're going to go over clear pathways specific to your niche, proven method that they have to work through, and coaching that teaches independence, because what we don't want to be doing as coaches is creating codependencies, because if you create codependencies, you end up with people that just stick around, don't get results, and they want to hold your hand and they want you to do the work for them. That's not what we teach. We teach independence, and we turn people into how they become high performers. So that's essentially what we're going to go through: how to achieve peak performance across body and health, brand and marketing, and coaching and culture to use. But I just use Fathom and then just like pretend there's a Zoom meeting on. Do you know, like the full first time that I started podcasting, I didn't have any correct software. I literally just opened Zoom and then I hit record. That was it. And then I uploaded the audio. I done that for like 2 years. Like everyone's like, oh, I use like this podcaster software, and I'm like, mate, I just use Zoom. Zoom has been my savior. So ChatGPT, when you listen to this and I put this transcription in, you're going to hear that it's obviously my voice, and you're going to hear someone else's voice under the same profile. And you might sometimes hear David and Ailey. Obviously, when we're transcribing this, remember the information that we're putting in place is going to then be compartmentalized into notes for Kieran afterwards so that he can action things. So let's go for it. So as I mentioned already, the first thing we're going to focus on, mate, is body and health. And when it comes down to this, mate, is you need to have a physique that commands authority, systems that keep you strong and unstoppable, and a mindset and personal development work. These are the things that you need to have in place, and it's what I've really found allows me to always be better. Mate, see, when I'm not reading, if I'm just not reading books, I know that sounds like, I wouldn't give this advice to someone that's like relatively new, right? I wouldn't say it's the difference between you doing well and not doing well is reading a book. But when you're trying to be this person that is leading from the front, setting the standard, you need to have your personal development work in place. I'm not saying that you need to read X amount of books per month, but you have to be subsequently learning on top of what you're doing. Otherwise, you're not improving your mind. You're not, and even for me, mate, since I've really got back into my reading and developing, and anyone watching this as well, I want you to understand it's like I'm not just saying the reference of reading, I'm meaning the actual commitment to improving yourself, learning something daily. Otherwise, because if you're not actually consuming any new content, you're just got a bias in your own mind. You're not stimulating any creativity or gaining different perspectives. Because if you run an online business like you do, just you and Gio, you're traveling and you're talking to your clients, and maybe you're having the odd conversation myself or Ailey or consuming, it's like, it can be ad hoc at times, it can be more some weeks and less other weeks. You're not guaranteeing that your mind is then going to be stimulated and thinking about things, whereas just having a book in the morning that you do every single morning is just a way to align what you're doing, right? So it's like understanding that, like, people are like, oh, personal development's the thing. I was having a conversation with someone on Instagram before this, and they were like, they replied to my story about a book I'm reading, and then they were like, I'm going to add that to my list. And I was like, don't have a list. I was like, don't have a list of books. I was like, this is what I've learned. And one of my mates said this to me. They were like, I don't find books, they find me. And I was like, I get that. Because like, see, sometimes when you get to the point where you're trying to be this ultimate productivity person that's like, I've got my book, I've got my journal, and I'm doing this, you end up doing it all when it's not actually even doing anything for you. You're just like so overwhelmed by the act of doing these things that you're actually at a point where you're like, you're missing the point of actually doing it. So personal development work, because you're a personal development coach, mate. It's like, I'm a personal development coach. What's my personal development like? What's my professional development like? It's like, oh, it's ad hoc. It's like, how can you be someone that's teaching someone to develop themselves if you're not developing yourself? And developing yourself isn't just reading books, it's asking yourself questions, putting yourself, like right now, like this is development, do you know what I mean? Attending group calls, like listening to podcasts. But you need to be doing things that are good to implement as well. So right now, mate, how would you rate your own sort of personal and professional development from like an actual learning standpoint, mindset standpoint? How would you rate it on a scale of 1 to 10?
5.
Yeah.
The reason why I would say 5 is like, it's more recently that we had obviously a conversation about how I started to chase a bit more of like a discomfort as such, more so inside of business. But what I've actually learned is that for my business to get better, I need to be pushing my own mindset and my own personal growth. And so I would say it's actually getting a lot better. But it is the smaller things, as you say, it is very ad hoc. I'm just in a very new environment right now where personal development will just happen. Mm-hmm. But if I don't make a routine of it, it will go stale again like it did at the halfway point of this year.
Yeah, and I was having the chat with you the other day as well about like, if you're not advancing your own thought processes, your own mindset, educating yourself, it does so much for your clients as well, because you can articulate things in a much simpler way than they can. And in turn, it actually helps you. And people are like, how did you know that? Like, how did you know what to say there? Or how did you know what I was thinking there? Or how were you able to say this? And it's because it's coming from a place that you understand it. It's like when it's like trying to get someone to do something that you don't practice. It's like folks saying to folk, I know how to help folk diet. And it's like, but you don't. because you don't have a lean athletic physique all the time. So you understand the concept of a calorie deficit, you understand the concept, but it's totally different. So it's like you have to become the guinea pig of the thing that you're coaching. And any great coach or any great business owner or entrepreneur that I have met is they're playing the game way harder than what their clients and their customers are. And that's the biggest thing. And it's like, then a lot of folk will go, well, I know entrepreneurs or business owners that are bent out of shape. And I was like, well, they may have a skill set that allows them to be very, very good at that thing. They have a way of thinking, an algorithm in their brain that they became obsessed with this. They understand this. But imagine they were a better human being. Imagine they were even more higher performing. Imagine what they could do. And it's like, that's the bit that folk don't get. It's like, yeah, if you spend enough time doing something, you can become an absolute expert in it, but you can still be a booze bag that gets pissed up every single night, doesn't look after themselves. Because sometimes folk will use that argument like, oh, but they done fitness and they had a heart attack. And I'm like, you're missing the point. It's like, it's not about what it allows you and just the final outcome. It's who you become in the process of doing this stuff. And so many folk completely overlook that as well. So what I would suggest, mate, is really thinking about like in a day, mate, like daily habits. So like the daily habit, mate, and I know this isn't news to you, right? But is looking at, right, 20 minutes of learning. If you do 20 minutes of learning every single week, this is bad maths, it's 2 hours and 20 minutes every single week. 20 minutes of learning equates to 2.5 hours pretty much every single week, times 52, right? That's over 110, 20, I don't know what the maths is on it, right? It's a lot of hours of learning, right? But folk don't see the value in that, and it's so ad hoc. Whereas if you're, whether that's like reading or whatever that is, so for me, I like to simplify things for my habits and my behaviors, because I don't like overwhelming myself with read a chapter of a book or do this. I like minimal effective dosage. So for me, it's like, right, need to get my book, read my book every single day. I don't care if I read a page, mate. I've ticked that box, because some days I might sit down and I'm like, settle into it. Sunday I read 2 chapters, I've done this. It's like minimal effective dosage is better than being like, I need to do this much. So for yourself, it's like daily habits. I'd be looking at, right, 20 minutes of learning. And this is us starting to flesh out like certain things that are like non-negotiable and doing that as well. So systems that keep you strong and unstoppable, mate. Like, when do you start to weaken? Like, when does the foundation start to wobble?
I would say when I start to get a wee bit more of like a financial pressure. When I start to feel the crunch, even if it's like a very hectic month for outgoings, the habits, the standards will kind of dip to a certain degree, but it's not so much they'll just go to shit. It'll be a lot of justification comes through, so I don't even notice that they've started to dip.
Yeah. So what would be the symptoms of that? So what would be like frantic behaviours that are almost like the demise of Kieran Ingram? Would it be looking at your phone earlier than you need to be, dipping into client support, anticipating things that hadn't happened? What would be the sort of things that you know?
I would say just preempting what's going to happen before it's happened.
Yeah.
And like starting to kind of panic about stuff. Like we were having a conversation, me and Georgia, yesterday even about like where we're going in like March and that stuff. And I was like, we need to get this done, we need to do that. And it's like, it's March. Like it's miles away. And you're already thinking, I've not got the money for that now or whatever it is, but you're just like, you are miles away from it. Yeah. But what I notice as well, see whenever I go into a different environment, that's when I do also start to stress, or it brings out the best in me. Yeah. There's like the two areas here. So yeah, I would say financial pressure can bring out the worst. When I've got a lot of volatile like clients as well, when a lot of people are kind of just hitting you with stuff that you've just repeated yourself with, and you're like, fucking hell. And at the moment, I would say that's like the kind of main two that start to bring a wee bit of negative.
So what's like, tell me, like, what would be, you're obviously trying to get to this, and we're talking about this next level, the next blueprint. What are things that you're doing right now that you know to get to the next level, more freedom, better energy, better control, better leadership? What's going to be the things that you're like, I just don't do that then? Like, that's something that I don't do. Because it's always a gap, mate. It's just where you are, what you're doing now, what's the next thing? Whether that's you actually looking at a reframe, or whether that's you actually being like, what's the thing that I need to do? What's the next thing?
It's hard to kind of put it into words, man. I'm actually kind of unsure, but it's more like, I notice that I do procrastinate a lot.
Yeah.
And I can waste a lot of time even just sitting fucking looking at my phone.
Well, these are all, so what you need to look at, so a lot of folk will look at the things they experience, lack of clarity, decision fatigue, they're all symptoms, mate. But what you then need to think is, what is the 5 to 10 steps that happen before that lead to me feeling that way? What are the things that you begin to compromise? Is it coaching 7 days consecutively? Is it, because like folk talk about days off, mate, right? When you're an entrepreneur, mate, you don't have fucking days off. You're in the wrong game if you're like, I don't ever take a day off. I'm always doing something to some extent. It's in my blood. I like doing it. I like making content. I like being on socials. But for me, when I coach, like 7 days consecutively, I'm in there because you're dealing with people, mate. Like, which is obviously our job. It's what we do. But like, if I start going like 2 weeks in a row where I've just been in there every single day, which is great support, I start to notice I've got higher irritability. I'm more agitated. I then find that my vices are higher. I'm more reluctant because it's not procrastination, mate, on your phone. That is like someone being like a vape more. It's a vice, mate. It's instant gratification. It's because you're feeling more contracted. So what you need to be thinking about is like what boundaries just need to be in place and standards that you're like, just because this will change, mate. It's like a lot of folk are very like matter of fact, like, but right now for you to get to the point where I'm at this many clients, I've got my business here, I've got my life here, to go to the next point, because if I gave you 10 clients today feeling the way you're feeling, it would probably crack. There'd be cracks in the barrel very quickly. So what would be the things that you have to start and you can think about this, mate. It's good that you're thinking about it, but like, what are things that you know that you're doing right now that just, it's a one-way ticket to Gio, your other half, by the way, for anyone that doesn't know, being like, Kieran, you're being a dick right now. Things that are going to be like, if I do that right now, it's probably not going to be the best me. It's not saying that you're going to respond like a plonker, but you probably won't be able to say what you want to say and do what you need to do. And it's why you then need to know that, right, when am I putting certain tasks? And mate, see people, I remember I used to hear this stuff and I'd be like, so is that it forever? It's like, no, you need to, like, it's your blueprint, mate. It's like, right, what is my blueprint? Like, what are the things that I do? What are the things that I don't do for this chapter of my life? And then what happens is in a new chapter of your life, maybe you hire a member of staff, maybe you get someone in, maybe you start, even like right now, we've kind of changed our strategy up. We're doing 1 video a week. I was doing 2 to 3 videos a week, but I've invested more into like a higher budget, working with a videographer, and I felt like you just change, and then you're like, right, okay, that means that I've got less time here, more time here. It was the same when Carly finished up recently. We went from, right, I need to do this, now I need to do that. Everything's always changing, but then when everything changes, you always need to be in that mindset of what are the things that I just can't compromise? Because a lot of people don't realize that they're like a power plant. So your energy, if you're working with people can drain your energy if you don't manage it. Like, actually, like, Ailey's done a course through Built to Coach, and it's all about like psychology, understanding coaching and people. Legally, you're not really meant to do more than 3 one-to-one calls in a day with a client. Like, you're not meant to, like depending on the heaviness of the call. But it's like, imagine you had 5 client calls in a day, you ran a group call, you double train, and then you're like flat as a pancake. You go into the next day and you're like, I don't know why I'm anxious right now. And it's like, I do. You know what I mean? Like, it's about learning to understand yourself better. So I'm not saying that that's what you need to do. Like, I don't just limit it to 3 calls per day. But what I'm saying is there's certain things that you need to recognize your thresholds, and when you pass them, what that does. So you can have a think about that, mate. But I would definitely be thinking, mate, like, see if I'm like Monday night and Thursday, I work late right now. So I'm working till like 10, half 10 at night, right? On these days, I run calls later on. I take a lot of calls in these days. I typically don't put anything on in the morning, deliberately. Now, there might be some days where I do that and stretch that, but then if I do that, I then think about, right, where's my energy going to be that the next day? What's my state like? And these are the things you need to be doing, because people just don't take responsibility of this, and then they're pure agitated, wired to a Mars bar, going, why am I feeling this way? It's like, yeah, man, like, because you had this conversation with Sandra yesterday, because you had 3 of your students losing their fucking nut because X, Y, or Z happened, and you had to deal with it. And it's like recognizing that, like, although we're producing energy by living well, eating well, drinking water, sleeping well, we're also having energy taken by other things that we then need to manage and regulate. And if we don't do that, it can be heavy. Like we've had clients with deaths recently, people having very morbid thoughts, like so many different things going on, and you have to remember the toll that can take on you, and you have to be very conscious of that as well, mate. So it's like, you're the biggest asset, and the reason why so many folk don't grow in business, don't grow in their career, is because they're so wrapped up not managing where they're at. And then as a result of that, they've got no systems in place, and then they're like weak foundations, and they're always doing the same things over and over. So all this stuff, man, is like, I use this analogy all the time, but like, your life's like a air hockey table. Remember the wee air hockey tables you played when you were a wee guy? I talk about this all the time. So everyone gets all the eggs together, they center everything, they're like, boom, got everything, got my blueprint placed, got my strategy. And a few weeks go by, and one of them just drifts away. The other one just drifts away. And this isn't just like activity training, it's like the mindset work, the boundary with your phone, the screen time management. It's all these things just start to drift away, and then you end up here going, I don't feel myself right now, I'm super anxious right now. And it's like that, like, it's not, it's like, people want getting and having an elite physique year round. They want it to just be just tell me my macros. See when folks say that to me and they go, just tell me. And I'm like, you don't even know. Like, you have to have independence and think about this shit all the time. Like, I was saying this to you right before this. Like, see what it takes to grow a business. That you have to be thinking about it all the time. Like, I obviously help some people with this. And the quote is everything should be made as simple as possible, but not simpler. And it's Albert Einstein. He didn't actually say that. He said something that was a little bit more complex than that, but the irony is that someone simplified it and said it differently. But the point of this is that, like, when it comes to things like body, business, results, people want the dream physique, they want the peak level of performance, they want the business that gives them stability, they want the clients that are amazing, they want the financial situation. But what they don't want is what goes with it, and what goes with it is you need to be thinking about this stuff all the time. Like, and see, when you spend time with more people that have more than what you want, what you just realize, it's a level of consciousness and a level of thinking that you just don't have yet. And they're just a lot more chilled about things that you are not chilled about. That's the difference. And people, again, going back to that point, people want it to be, wait, what is it I need to do? Like, what's this big mad strategy? It's about looking at where you are, looking at what you want, looking at the gap, looking at the strategy, the traits, the characteristic, and what you need to do to get there. It's not rocket science, but then people just try and keep going, right, I'll just keep rolling the dice, doing the same thing that I always do, same level of thinking, same trying to be, they're being lazy. They just want it, they want it done. How can I get this done? So simple that I don't need to think about it. It's like, you can't do anything without thinking about it. You have to be thinking about it. And especially when it comes to physique, 'cause a lot of folk, like, for where you're at right now, like, that brings me on to the last point. We were asking, like, I've obviously been asking questions. How much authority do you feel like as your physique commands? Like, how much authority? And around the same weight. So then you just need to look at, what am I doing and what do I need to change? Because everyone's like, I need to go on a 12-week diet and phase. It's like, no, you don't. Like, you did when you had tons of fat to lose. It would be advantageous for you to, like, obviously what David that's behind the camera is doing right now, like, pulling it in from like a compositional standpoint. But if you're doing a higher, this is obviously relative to every individual, you're doing a considerably high amount of training right now. Yeah. Therefore, if you just manage your standards better in some areas, become more conscious about things that you're not being conscious about. And the reason why folk then go, oh, like as you said right there, it's not what it should be. It's like, well, if you think about where it should be, then you have that. Mm-hmm. If you just look at the numbers and you go, right, well, what's the level of thinking and consciousness I need to do? And everyone's always like, no, but I need to go for a big dieting phase. And one of our new guys, Callum, said to us the other day, like, do you do like meal plans? And I was like, you don't need a meal plan, mate. You're not out of shape, right? You need to just think more than what you are and actually look at the areas that you're letting things slide a little bit. Don't let them slide a little bit, and then you'll have a higher level of awareness and consciousness, which will mean that your physique will come through a lot more. So for yourself, mate, what you need to be thinking about is you're at a point right now where you're going to be traveling for the next 6 months, right? You're going to be in places that are actually very optimal for getting your nutrition in order. So you have to start coming up with what I call, like, your nutrition blueprint. Say blueprint a lot, right? But it's like, what are the things that you do? What are the things that you eat? Even like what I said to you earlier, I was like, you want a coffee? And you're like, get me another thing with like another milky coffee. And I was like, you've had one today, just have a black coffee. And it's these little things, it's these small things. I was like, but that is you, like, but folk are like, yeah, but you're not dying, you don't need to worry. It's like, no, but you're missing the point. You're still being too lucid and too loose with certain things. That's not a stringent thing to do, is it? You still with the coffee. Like, someone said something to me the other week and they're like, I had a bit of a treat the other day. I went, hold the phone. I was like, you just told me you're a chef, you made this amazing omelette the other day. Was that a treat? I bet you that was delicious. And they were like, it was. I'm like, well, why the fuck is that a treat? Yeah. And why is that not a treat? Like it's people's mindset towards where they're at and what they're doing. And that's because of subconscious, like, upbringing, fucking hardwiring that you've had from, like, deep-rooted stuff. But, like, for you, mate, like, I'm not saying that you don't experience that or that's not stuff you have to work on. But for you now, it's a couple of degrees. And using a new environment, so that for anyone that's obviously watching this right now, you're maybe buying a new house, you're moving location, use these opportunities as a way to reinvent yourself every single time. So for yourself, I know one for you, it's like, right, when you were back home, it's like if you were staying with your parents or you were at Gio's family or whatever, right? It's like, what was the thing there, the gap, it maybe like biscuits or whatever. It's like, just don't buy any of that stuff here. If you want that stuff, have it, factor it into your week and manage it into what you do, but set a higher standard than what you already are, and that will be the difference, bro, for yourself. Now, this is obviously relevant to every individual. Saying to someone that doesn't know their arse from their elbow with nutrition to set a higher standard is like telling me to just say hola 20 times and I'll learn Spanish. It doesn't, you know what I mean? It doesn't work like that. You have to work it. So For yourself, mate, I'd be really thinking about set like things that you eat on certain days. So you know what you're training, your training is pretty steady right now for what you're doing. But having like, right, double days, what are my things that I'm going to pull at levers? What are my go-to meals? If you're going out, and one of the biggest ones for so many folk is that I just stick to eating single ingredient foods most of the time. And see, for someone that really wants to get a really high level conditioned physique all the time, single ingredient foods for the best part, like from the sea, from the tree, from the earth, keeping it so simple, managing fat intake is going to be the answer to it. So if you just do that, it's like, this is like so easy. But a lot of folk are always like, they've got too many decadent foods in there, too many things that like liquid calories. And like for you, mate, if you just go, right, there's my width, if I just bring it to here, you get in better shape. That's it. That's all it is, man, because the output's already there. Does that make sense? Yeah. So really think about, like, for nutrition, starting to think about like go-tos. You only eat like 5 meals, mate. Like rotate, obviously here, if we're in Bali, you can eat out a lot more as well. But generally speaking, I eat fish, I eat chicken breast, chicken thigh maybe once or twice a week, it's a bit more fatty. And then I have a lot of red meat as well. And then when I have meals, I'm just looking at the bigger training days, I'll have a bit more carbs, I'll double up on potatoes, I'll have extra sourdough, I'll have more rice and sourdough. It's just that, it's just your intake should just be increased, like, but the staples, the protein sources, the vegetables, the fat intake, the oils, the fats that you get, genuinely keep them the same. It's when those things fluctuate so much, and then some days you have free milky coffees and some days you don't. If you just change that, you then go, wow, I'm in way better shape here. Do you know what I mean? So, and then just keeping things, obviously, nailing activity goals. If you're different places and your environment's forever changing, making sure that you're still nailing activity targets every single day, making sure that you're still active on top of what you're doing and not just relying on your exercise. My output's so high, and I'm a big guy, and like I do a lot, but like still setting that standard there is going to be it. Like you went through like a big change when you done that photo shoot prep. It's like, not that we're in a photo shoot prep, but think like that guy thought. What are the things that you've done, and bring that into your day-to-day life, and you just start to get to the point where you're like, I'm peeled, like all the time. And then that will make you feel better, perform better, think better, command more authority as well. Because that's the thing with a lot of coaches, mate, they're not in good shape. They're not in good shape, and then they're going like, why am I not getting influencing people? I'm like, you're not that influential. You know what I mean? You're not that influential, so by you doing that, it's going to be a huge difference. So body and health, there's a lot in there as well, right? It's like so much what you could do, but genuinely speaking, it's like, these are the things that, like the gaps that we want to be looking at as well. So we're going to run through a bit of coaching and culture, but I'm not actually going to film this because a lot of this is going to be very specific to Kieran's business, to Kieran's clients, and what he's helping people do. So we're going to come back onto marketing and brand after this, but yeah, man, you can just enjoy some lovely B-roll and some music of us going through this in a montage. Let's go.